we can do that. Unless, John, do you have anything for him?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
all right.
No,
Let him have it.
hey, hey, Coach Chris, I'm John.
Hey, John.
So I went to a smaller high school in Illinois in Peoria,
Okay.
and I've been out for about 15 years now. Um, Similarly, we had a basketball coach in the last couple of years come in and change the culture around. So that story kind of sticks with me because it's primarily a football school, and now it's kind of switched over to being a basketball school, and we actually just lost our state championship. But
How'd you lose that?
one question I had is in the working world or wherever you're always going to encounter trying to change a culture, and it feels like you're probably swimming upstream a lot. So
Yeah.
what are some of the things you did to actually really impart that the culture was important, and what are some of the things you did? You mentioned family and team building and things like that. What are some of the things you did that maybe like another coach, somebody else might want to hear to help really kind of change the tide there?
Well, I think I mean it starts. To be honest with you, it starts with relationship building. You know, if the kids understand that as a coach you have their best interests at hand and that you truly do care about them, um, it goes a long way with teenagers, right? And I think that there once you build that foundation, okay, of trust within a relationship, there people are willing to do so much more for you, and all of a sudden they love being around the group of people, that that's a heck of a lot more than if they barely know them, right? So we spent a lot of time just getting to know each other, whether it be from coaching staff to players and players to players and stuff, and we talked about how we act as members of the Hartford basketball program, and understanding that we're going to be wearing the Oriole on our chest all the time, and it's going to say basketball on there, and so they know where we're coming from. It's like, how do we want to be portrayed? How do you want to be looked at? And I asked them those questions in the beginning of the year, and they said, well, I think right now Hartford basketball is looked at as a joke, and that we're going to get beat every single time we go out on the floor. And I was like, well, is that what you guys think? And a lot of the answers were, I was never really asked what I think. It's like, well,
Yeah.
you guys are the ones going out and putting in all the work and doing everything. You have to be the ones who are going to be portraying what we look like as a team, not letting the outsiders give the perspective there. And we talk a lot about, on top of that, then we talked a lot about body language, and just
How so?
so one thing that I like to do is after a game is, obviously I watch the film again to see how things went in certain situations and kind of check things out X's and O's wise. But another thing is then I go back and I'll watch it again, and I'll focus on our bench and how they're doing, and how engaged they are with their the kids that don't play a whole lot, like how engaged are they with their teammates, and what are they doing to help out from the sidelines. And I'll look at plays after the whistle blows to see how we react to things. If there's an adverse moment in a game, how do the next 30 to 45 seconds to a minute go? What does that look like
Yeah.
for us? And we break all that down, and we sit and watch some film sometimes, and just to show kids, like, is this the way we need to act? Is this the way that you should be acting as a person? Those types of things. And just really getting to the human side of things, I think, is really important for building a culture and having a foundation of, this is how we want to act. This is how we need to portray ourselves. And that kind of just brings them together even more, and brings them even more tight knit. That's just things that, we've kind of come together as a coaching staff and kind of figured out that, was important for us. And I know, like, Gino Ariema talks all the time about body language and how that makes up
Yeah.
who they are as a program, because this is how we're going to display us playing basketball.
Mhm. Yeah. And you said something, and I bet, and I'm going to make an assumption here, and you talk about ownership. Do you think the ownership really came from you actually asking them what they want and kind of putting the onus on them?
Yeah, I really do think so. I mean, like I said, I don't think they said, some of the guys that said that we've never been asked what we want before. It's always the coach telling us what they want. And, it's it's kind of their baby. It's their deal, I mean, they're the ones that are putting in all of the physical work and, having all the mental hardships and the emotions going up and down throughout a game, and even, and through practices and stuff, and having coaches harp on them and everything. And so it's like, what do you want to see? What do you want out of this experience, and how can I, as your coach, implement those things?
Mm-hmm. So how did you get that influence to ask that question? Because I played 3 sports for 4 years, and I never got asked that question. You just usually had to fall in line. So I'm curious kind of about, who are your influences in coaching, and while we may not know the names, what really is at the root of you asking kind of a pretty interesting question there?
I've had the privilege of coaching with a lot of really great coaches in my 16 years of coaching high school basketball. I started coaching high school basketball when I was 19, and it's been a blessing. Like if you count everything, I guess, super successful guys. I mean, I've had this would only be, I think, my second losing season as a coach. I was part of a program. So, I mean, some guys that just really know what they're doing, and they care about the kids, and they always made it about the kids first, and relationships, and how can you build those relationships, and what better to build those relationships than making sure the kids trust you. And, what, coming across, like, coaching in 2 different states too, you see, and having success, it's all the same, no matter where you are. It's just, getting a good group of kids that are willing to buy into something too. It goes a long way. And to be honest, it was a little bit easier this year just because they're sick of losing. Yeah. And they want to change things around, and we're starting to, and I hope that it continues, obviously.
Yeah, that's great. Good answer. I've got another question, and because from my perspective, picture, somebody like me who's in his 30s and doesn't have kids. Mm-hmm. And we look at society and how society treats kids, and you kind of touched on it a little bit. And from my perspective, it seems like we treat these kids like we just put bubble wrap around them, and we try to make them as safe as possible. And you hear all the rhetoric.
Yep.
From your perspective, as somebody who's kind of seen the evolution, because it seems like you've kind of been coaching about as long as I've been out of high school. What do you think that evolution has been like, and what do you think people need to hear about high school kids these days that maybe gets skewed in what you would hear in media?
High school kids are a lot tougher than you think. Let's face it. I mean, they go through a lot more things than we had to. With social media being at its all-time high right now, and all the adversity and the things that are going on in our world right now, and these kids have to go through a lot of things every single day, and they see it. All they have to do is they pick up their cell phone and be like, here it is, right? It's where, I graduated high school in 2004, and you didn't have that, right? Like, you didn't just have the world right at your fingertips at all times. And it was nice to be, I think, looking back on it, it was really nice to not know about some things. So I think that these kids are misinterpreted sometimes, because about being soft or anything like that. Like, I mean, I think high school kids, especially because that's who I work with, I mean, they're a lot tougher than you think, and they deserve a lot more credit. I mean, and I'm not always an easy person to have to deal with in a practice setting, because I'm going to push them to their limits, and I'm going to push their buttons sometimes because I want to see how they're going to react in certain situations. And sometimes they don't like it, and sometimes they go and complain to their teammates about it too. And and that's okay. They need to be able to do that, right? And
right.
Sometimes they go and complain to my assistants about, oh, well, coach is being too hard on us, or doing this. Why would he call me out for this? And if they start to understand, then I always tell my guys is, if I'm on you 24/7 about things, and I'm pushing you and I'm correcting you about things, that's a good thing. And that means I see a lot more potential in you. It's when I stop talking to you, it's when I stop correcting you, stop trying to make you better, that's when you should probably be worried, because I've given up on you at that point,
Yeah.
And I think that was a message to our guys early on. I think that they really started to understand that as time went on.
Do you find that you can't be quite as hard, I put that in quotes, quite as hard on a kid in 2022 than you were in 2011, 2012? Or do you think that's kind of blown out of proportion?
I think that
Do you get a lot more parent calls now?
no comment.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting an answer, but I am kind of curious about, because I've got friends who are coaches, and they say it's not as bad as you would think, but it's outside of sports where you see that more than anything.
Yeah, I just think that I think nowadays you have to be more creative, and you have to really, it comes back to, you have to really know and understand your kids and where they're coming from and what their backgrounds are, because it's so crazy now. Normally 10, 15 years ago, you coach in a community or you teach in a community, and most of the kids their backgrounds are all the same. Now, no matter where you are, everything is so adverse, and so there's literally groups and cliques and activities and everything for every person and every interest you could possibly think of. And so you just really got to get to know your kids and understand them, because then you can know how you can push their buttons. You know when you can challenge them to certain things, and knowing who they are in and out the best that you can is super important, because if you don't know who they are, I mean, how do you know how to get the most out of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sounds really, really silly that I keep bringing up the relationship thing, but that's been a backbone of who I've been as a coach for my entire career. So
yeah, that's good. That's good stuff. That pretty much wraps up what I had questions about. That's
Sure.
really cool.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, while you guys were talking, I came up with another one. You were talking about parents briefly. I understand it's hard to find officials these days. People just don't want to do the job, and a lot of it has to do with the parents screaming because Jimmy got his third foul in the second quarter. Do you see a lot of that, or going back to John's angle, is that something that's also blown out of proportion?
No, unfortunately, I wish I could say it was blown out of proportion. That's a real thing, man. And I have a lot of friends.
The solution to that is?
I don't know. I don't know. I wish I had an answer for that. I really do. I don't know. I think
the problem is these people are grown. They are who they are going to be. They're not, a 40-year-old is no longer moldable. If that guy's an asshole, he's just an asshole.
That's a good point.
I mean, I imagine the kids are embarrassed when they look up in the stands and see, mom losing her mind.
Yeah, and I think that's really, really a big truth. I think some of it, unfortunately, I don't know a lot, I guess, like that way with, kids being, I think it needs to be where from the kids a little bit more is like telling their parents, hey, I need you to stop with that stuff, because it is embarrassing. There's a lot of times where you see that, where, you'll get the kids that are looking to the stands after a play where they maybe didn't do something so well, and you'll hear parents screaming at their kid, and, you hate to hear that stuff. And, because you feel for the kid right away. But then, the example that it's setting for the kid too is that, hey, this type of behavior is okay. And you see that a lot more now in high school athletics, where, kids are getting teched for being reactionary after a call, and it happens a lot more. We had a situation that happened this year with that. So, I'm not going to get into it, but I mean, those types of things are much more prevalent in today's game. And I think that the club and AAU stuff plays a big factor in that, because all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, like pat me on the back because I play AAU and I'm really good now and everybody should know about it. Well, I mean, there are some really prestigious AAU programs out there, don't get me wrong, but nowadays, I mean, you could walk down the street and find three AAU or club teams and be like, oh yeah, it's only $2,000 to join. Sure, sign me up. So
Yeah, my understanding of AAU, again, it was a different part of the country, but it seems like it's mostly a business run by adults. So, what's kind of your perception of AAU, just both with the wear and tear it can put on players' bodies and also the investment, and just from your perspective as a high school coach, how would you describe AAU, and would you recommend that?
well, unfortunately, I think if you're a kid that plays at a high level and you want to play at the next level, I mean, it's a necessary evil. It really is.
Yeah.
You have to do things to get your name out there. Um, you have to expose yourself to as many college coaches as you can, and that's a lot of times that's where college coaches go because there are more kids of that caliber in the gym. At that point. And they can go somewhere where there's going to be 30 teams playing for a weekend compared to I got to go travel to this one high school game to watch two players play. But yeah, I think there are some really good AAU programs out there. I think that there are programs that do have the kids' interests at heart, and you actually have to make the team. You don't just get, oh yeah, well, we have 33 kids that tried out this year. We're going to keep them all, and we're going to just have an ABC team. Because that's what it's becoming. Like you said, the business entity side to it, right, is, well, look at all this money that I can make. And I understand that there's money to be made, and there's money that needs to be made too, obviously. But I'm so mixed on it because we have some kids that play AAU and we have some kids that don't, and a couple of my better players play AAU and a couple of my better players don't. So it's just, I think it's, I don't know. I don't have a great answer for that. It's a really tough situation because, like I said, it is a necessary evil if you want to play at the next level and if you want to keep up with
Do you
everybody
think?
else.
Do you think being pretty active on social media, having a YouTube page, doing the modern things can get you the same level of exposure as an AAU team without spending $5,000?
It helps,
Yeah,
but ultimately, coaches want to see you play in person.
right.
Just being a coach myself, I mean, watching a team or some players on film, and then seeing them in person is a different animal. There's things that you miss on film that you can only get when you watch them in person.
Yeah.
So I think that you definitely need to have both. But I mean, having your highlight films and those kinds of things, those are important too. And those are things that I've talked to some of our guys about. Is like, hey, you haven't done that yet. You should probably get that going.
Yeah. And kind of along those lines, what kind of relationship do you have with colleges? Do you try to bridge that gap for the player to the college? Do you try to keep kind of mind your own garden kind of mindset with that? I've seen it kind of go both ways. But again, it's been years since I've been in high school. But so as your role as a head basketball coach, do you try to have those relationships with colleges?
A lot of times,
Or will you? I mean, I don't want to put too much pressure
no,
on,
yeah, like a lot of
on what
times,
you're doing.
it's more, if a coach from a school is coming to see our game, like they'll usually let me know beforehand and be like, hey, I'm coming to see so and so tonight. Or even if they show up and after the game they'll want to come and have a conversation. If they're really interested, they want to get to know a little bit more about the player, and it's nice to hear from secondhand from somebody rather than just hearing it from the player, because obviously the player is going to like a lot of what they do. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess I don't necessarily think like there'll be seeking coaches out is like what I would do. A lot of times they come to you and they want to talk to you. If there's a kid that isn't getting an exposure that I think deserves it, then I might start reaching out to a couple people and a couple, different networks and connections and be like, hey, got this kid. What do you think? And where do you think he would fit type thing? And, can you help me out a little
Right.
bit there? So a little bit of both, I would say.
Yeah. That's cool. All right. Well, I'm good, guys. You're on mute.
Am I? Hello, hello.
Eric's on mute.
Are you there?
Hang on, Coach.
Yeah.
Don't worry, he'll cut this part out. Is Chris on mute too?
All right.
Yeah, I
It
was on mute
showed
on
you being on
purpose.
mute.
Am I good now?
I was
Yeah.
trying to just
Yeah.
not
So I think
interrupt
we're
you.
good now.
No, I still don't hear him. Well, while Chris is dealing with wires, I can ask you about these reactionary texts. I see it in NCAA. I see it in the NBA. I see it in the NFL. I think they're trying to officiate emotion out of the game, and that's not only impossible, but I think it's detrimental. Do you think they're doing this at the high school level too, trying to, like, you get a nonsense call and you throw your arms up, and in a way it's justified. That's not a technical. That wasn't a technical 5 years ago.
Yeah, I just think that there's so many issues now, verbal and nonverbal, that I think officials have just had enough of it, and they're sick of it. I mean, you even see that some of that at the pro level, the guys who are
Mm-hmm.
the guys who are the habitual like offenders, right? Like they don't put up with it anymore, and they'll just tech you. I mean, it is what it is. You know, I'm not going to say that I'm an angel on the sidelines by any means. But
Have you gotten one? Have you gotten teed up a few times, Coach?
hey, I almost went the entire season without getting one. I did get one in our last game this year. But yeah, it was I felt like I didn't even get to earn that one, unfortunately. But it's is what it is at that point. But yeah, I think for me, I mean, what I'll say is I care a lot, and I put a lot of work into what I'm trying to put out onto the basketball floor, and that competitive side of you gets to you sometime, and like if there's a call that you disagree with, obviously you want to voice it. But I think being a young coach, I need to get better. I need to get a lot better at that too, is like how to confront officials. And sometimes officials are really, really great, and they'll straight up tell you, yeah, I missed that one. Like I screwed that up. I'll make sure that doesn't happen again. And other times officials are on the verge of like, I'm always right, so you can't argue with me. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think it's like a baseball manager. You got to get tossed once in a while. Just let the boys know that you're in there with them. You're in the fight.
yeah,
I hear a lot of passion out of you. I hear a lot of talk of family coming together, etc. Um, when did you know you wanted to coach basketball? Because it sounds like this called to you.
yeah. As soon as I knew that my playing career was over, which was high school, um, I there was that that just that competitive fire and the love for the game of basketball was still there, and I'm like, how do I still have that in my life? How do I still get in my life? And my high school basketball coach, who's passed on now, but I talked to him a lot and everything, and he actually got me really involved in it and got me really hooked on it, because he would call me in. I would be in college, and I went to UW Whitewater, and I would drive home 45 minutes sometimes just to sit down in his classroom and break down film, for the following season. Who some of the guys were my teammates the year before and everything. And it's just something that I got addicted
That's
to.
love
And
of the game.
yeah, I got addicted to it and wanting to continue to get more and more and more. And I was able to sneak in then as an assistant. My first coaching job was a JV assistant when I was 19, and then I still did a lot of things behind the scene with the varsity team as far as cutting film. And back then it was DVDs, man, and that was my job as a JV assistant, was to dub all these DVDs so every coach on staff had a DVD of every film. And oh my gosh, that was that was a full-time job in itself, man.
Well, we've
But
come a long way, haven't we?
sure have. But yeah, I have such a love for the game and a passion for the game, and that's kind of how I got into it. And I just worked my way up, and then I became a freshman coach, and then I became a JV coach, and then got into the varsity assistant ranks at a few different schools, and and here I am now. So
You've paid every due there is to pay, haven't you?
yeah, kinda. I guess I have, and not I'll tell you too, it was tough because there's been other jobs, obviously head jobs that I've applied for, and not playing at the collegiate level is a tough one to sell on people. Like you think you can run your own program, you haven't played at a high level, and unfortunately, that's a lot of people think that it's like, well, if you didn't play in college or at least, how can you be a good coach? And yeah, I don't know. I very much so disagree with that, but.
Absolutely. I think you come in, you take 0-9, and you flip that around, and you put together a few more solid years. It's undeniable that this guy can draw up a play or two. I don't think it matters if you played at St. Bonaventure or not in 1997.
It's always St. Bonaventure when you mention a college.
That's his
No.
go-to.
I went on a whole Richmond Spiders thing last time.
That's right.
Nice.
That's right.
You got any favorites in the tournament?
Well, I mean, I'm a big Alabama fan, simply because Nate Oates, their head coach, he's a Watertown, Wisconsin guy, which is my hometown as well. So
I didn't know that.
yeah,
We got a
he
dog
went
in the
to
fight.
he went to a very small school for high school and for college at Maranatha Baptist in Watertown, and
Wow.
he was actually my sophomore year geometry teacher, believe it or not. It was crazy. So I got to experience March Madness with him personally in his classroom. We had the old like TVs that you get to card in from the
Yep.
from the tech
card.
room.
Squeaky wheel and
Yeah.
the TVs.
So I would be like,
Shut down the printers.
yeah. So I would be like during geometry, I'd be like, hey Oates, during my study hall today, like, do you mind if I bring in a TV and we turn some games on? He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. He's like, I'll check one out right now, type thing. So yeah, he's a great guy, and the guy that I coached with at Beaver Dam prior to here, grew up with Nate. They were pretty good friends growing up. They lived on the same street. So yeah, it's small world. But I love watching Alabama play. I mean, they run that dribble drive and they're super, super aggressive in it. And, no secret, right? Like, we run the dribble drive at Hartford, and we're exclusive with that. So it's a lot of stuff that I've taken from him, and I love his stuff, and he does a great job, and he gets those kids playing really hard.
Oh man, when they're on, they are on. They can't
Yeah,
miss.
they're tough.
They,
Even his
they
teams
don't-
when he was at Buffalo, man, there was those guys came in and opened
he-
some eyes.
He does put together a high energy squad. Now that I think about it,
Yeah.
do you find your guys going streaky like that a little bit, like Alabama sometimes?
Yeah,
Or are you
definitely.
more
I mean,
consistent.
when you rely on getting to the basket and then the 3-point shot, there's gonna be a lot of ebb and flow, and there's gonna be a lot of ups and downs, and like we don't shoot mid-range shots. We just don't shoot
Love
them.
it.
We're get to the basket or we're shooting threes. I mean, we shot. Trying to think what the number is as a team.
I heard you have a junior who's shooting almost 50% from behind the arc.
Yeah, he finished the regular season at 48.1%.
Wow.
He finished
I
tied for
can't do
fourth in the
anything
state.
48% of the time.
I can cut his name out if we need to, but is it Nick Weston?
It is, yes.
Yeah, he is a stud. If I need to cut that out, I will.
No, I don't think
He
so.
is an absolute. Like, there's a couple of things I want to talk to you about. You have a couple of juniors, Nick Weston coming back. He is, and Manny, who I went to every game last year, Coach.
So Nick Weston's a senior. Nick Weston's a senior.
Oh, he was a senior. My fault. I thought
Yep,
he was a
yep.
junior.
Nope. I wish.
Right.
I love that kid.
My daughter is one of Coach Smith's managers, and she managed
Yep.
last year with
Yep.
Coach McKenna. And I went to every game last year, and it was much different with the COVID year. There was just a few
Yeah.
parents in there, but what I did notice about last year's team is they were really talented. There's a lot of heart on that team. What there wasn't though was it's like nobody had taught them how to win. They're
Yeah.
in every game. Every game is a heartbreaker. And how do you lose them all? I'm like, this
Yeah.
is a culture deal. And so I was talking to Peanut O'Reilly about that all summer and fall, and she's like, because she cheers for football, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to manage again. I don't know how the new coach is going to be. And I'm like, go talk to him. And obviously she managed, so it was great. And so then I get the play-by-play every game, every practice. And I got to say that the turnaround just in the mentality. I'm not saying you guys won a bunch of games,
Right.
but there was an actual turnaround in that season around Christmas
Yeah.
that
Yeah. I
you
mean,
could tell you're starting to get through to them. And this is how you win. This is how you finish.
yeah, we talked like what I made sure that was relayed to our guys is that winning is a skill. Like you have to learn how to win,
Yeah.
and we didn't know how to win early in the year because there were games that we were in. Man, we took Waukesha South in the beginning of the year. We took them to the brink, man, and they were a sectional final. I thought they were going to go to a sectional final team. I thought they were going to go to state, and they got bumped by Racine Case, but they Waukesha South, man, they got 3 scholarship players on their team, and we were winning most of that game, and but just some plays down the stretch that can't happen if you want to win a close basketball game, and we learned from those bumps and bruises early in the year, and we took those to heart, and we explained what needs to happen in those situations if you want to get over the hump, and when we started to get over the hump, man, we took 4th ranked in the state. Homestead, we took them to overtime, and we had them, man. We had them, but just a couple little things once again, that just winning and losing is so closely related, man. It's tough. Like 1 or 2 plays can really, and it's not at the end of the game necessarily either. It's at any point in the game that can really sway things.
It's hard to lose like that over and over, Coach, because you have the talent. You
Yep.
see it, and then the last 2 minutes of the game, the closing's not there. What you said, they didn't know how to win, but
Yep.
it turned around. So we were at the banquet on Sunday, guys, and so I got to see how many juniors were coming back, and it's a basketball team coming back,
Yep.
and I got excited right there because now we have a winning mentality, a winning coach, and guys that have been in the system for at least a year.
Yeah, and when these guys are facing adversity, their mindset isn't going to be here we go again. It's going to be not today. It's going to be slap the floor, be a dog, get a stop. That's going to be the mindset now instead of, oh, I've been here before. This sucks.
Yep.
We were walking out of the banquet, Coach, and we got to the car, and Peanut looks at me and she goes, "We got some dogs on defense for next year, Dad. Like, we're going to make a run. This is my junior and senior year are going to be fabulous." She's so excited.
Oh,
You got the town buzzing, Coach.
she's great.
You.
Riley's great though. Your daughter is awesome. She was great to have because she knew the kids obviously, and she had been a manager already, and so it was really nice. Like she knew exactly what she needed to do right away. And I'm telling you, man, like when I talked about our managers at the banquet, like they are very important to me, very important, and they know that. And man, I'm excited that she said that. To hear other people talk about things that I'm excited for personally, just it makes you as a coach be even more confident and more excited to continue to work hard. And our guys are already asking what we're doing in the off season, what's going to go on this spring, what's going to go on this summer, and I told them you got to be a little bit more patient. We got to figure out some schedules here and get that out to them. But I'm glad that they're already thinking about that, which it's a good sign.
Well, we're excited. Small town, Wisconsin basketball, and Hartford should be in it. Now, I've only been going to games for 2 years because Peanut's she was a freshman, now she's a sophomore. But there's talent on that basketball court. But even more than talent, there's a lot of hustle and some heart.
Yeah.
That's exciting to watch. So, and
Yeah,
another
thank
thing,
you.
we got to talk a little bit about at the banquet. You coached out in Colorado too, as well, right?
I did, yeah. I was out there I lived out there for 3 years, just under 3 years. Trying to even remember it's been about 10 years now that I've moved back. But yeah, I actually coached for 1 year there. I coached a girls team in the inner city, which was in Denver, KIPP Collegiate Academy. That was like their inaugural year. It was rough. It was very rough. And then and then I kind of got something that just fell into my lap. My wife now, she was my girlfriend at the time. We moved out there together, and she worked with someone who had a friend that coached at this supposed really good team. And sometimes you hear from other people. My wife's like, I don't know what to take of that or whatever, but here's a phone number. You're supposed to call this number. And I was like, okay. So I called this phone number, and it was he's a good friend of mine now. It was Troy Pochner, who was the head coach at Devlin High School. And I was like, I talked to him for a little while and everything. He said, we were super successful. We've gone to the Elite Eight for the last 3 years, and we're trying to make that, get that jump over the hump and everything. And, I looked him up after I got off the phone. I was like, geez, like, why do these guys want me to coach with them type thing? And, we ended up meeting, and we worked some things out, and that was a phenomenal year. We went 19-6, and we won the league, which is it was actually that we our rival was Valor Christian, who at the time Christian McCaffrey was on that team. He was a senior, and that, you want to talk about a dog, man. That guy was a dog.
Did you get to watch him?
I bet.
He was a very good basketball player too. I mean, that guy.
Oh, I bet he's good at everything he touches.
He was a bowling ball, man. He was their point guard, and we split with him that year. And that was some really fun basketball to play with. And we were ranked number 1 in the state for a lot of the year, and they were ranked number 2 in the state for a lot of the year. And we switched back and forth a couple times, and so that was a really great year. And unfortunately, it ended in the Elite Eight. We lost to Sand Creek out there, and they had a kid that was going to Air Force the next year, and he just lit us up in the fourth quarter. And that's, things happen, right? So, but that was fun being out there and getting to meet a really great coach from Troy Pochner, and he ended up leaving when I left. He left and went and coached at Valor for a couple of years, and actually won a state championship with Valor. So that's it was a pretty crazy situation that way. And then, but that was fun.
Yeah, that's a crazy school.
Yeah.
I went out there to catch a game this year just because
It's like a college
I
campus,
heard all
man.
the folklore. Yeah, it's wild. That's a good program.
Yeah, it really is. And there's a lot of phenomenal athletes that go through there, man. Holy cow.
I bet that helps you with buy-in from your players now. They can look at you and say, hey, this guy's been there. He's done that. He can take us.
Yeah, I don't
Proverbial promised land.
I don't love to talk to, like, I don't love talking about that kind of stuff. I guess,
You
like,
don't throw your resume in their face.
yeah, I don't like to do that with the kids, I mean, but like you said, they know. I mean, they can find things on the internet a heck of a lot better than all of us can combined. So
Every kid's a PI.
yeah, for real. That's true. That's just so true. And so, I mean, so they know, and being that I've had a lot of success, right down the road in Beaver Dam, the last 5 years with Coach Ladrin there, and geez, it's no secret. We won, we used to be in the same conference, and the Wisconsin Little 10 conference broke up, in the last year was it 16, 17? Sorry, I was just looking at a poster I have on the board right over here behind me. Is we won the last conference title in the Wisconsin Little 10 when we played Hartford, in the same league, and so they're very much aware. Actually, my assistant now I coached against him when he